What's happening, Hardscapers? Today we're going to talk about the hardest part of installing pavers. Let's get into this. There are many steps in installing pavers and doing it the right way. Everything from the excavation, the base preparation, screeding, laying, edge restraint, and jointing compound. And they all present their own challenges. And we've covered those in detail in a full length how to install pavers that you can watch if you click at the top of this video here. But in my opinion, the hardest part of installing pavers comes down to the final bedding layer, the screeding of that bedding layer, because this is the most crucial step in the process to ensure that when you're laying your pavers, they're going to be fairly uniform on that surface. Any inconsistencies in your bedding layer, that's the layer on top of your base material, that's usually about 1 inch, no greater than 1.5 inches, will show on the surface of your pavement as you lay. And that's why it's incredibly crucial to make sure that you have this screeded out appropriately. Screeding is the action of leveling this bedding layer. And here's how to do it perfectly. There are some that can do it by eye, following string lines, using a level, and scraping it back to provide a level surface. I am not one of those people. I rely on Screed bars. These are 3/4 inch iron gas pipes that you can buy at any home improvement center. They have an outside diameter of 1 inch, which is perfect for our bedding layer. And you typically buy them in 10-foot lengths, but you can have them cut them to size, or you can cut them yourself to whatever size you want them to be. Obviously, the longer the length, the less you're gonna need to reset them throughout that project. So that's gonna increase efficiency. And ultimately, what we need to do is set them, pour our bedding layer all around them, and then scrape it back using that level. But the difficult part is typically in trying to set them to ensure that when you lay your pavers, they're set at the right height and they have a slope applied to them so that water is draining to where you need it to go. That means away from foundations. So when it comes to setting them, this is where installing your base material to the right height is incredibly important. The easiest way to go about this is using string lines that represent the top of pavement. So what you can do is set a post at your foundation and set a post at the end of your patio. Tie a string line to this. Put a string line level on it to make sure that it is level. Then what you need to do is measure the distance between both posts and apply a slope to that string line by calculating either a 1/8 of an inch per foot slope or a 1/4 of an inch per foot slope. And we have a full video that'll show up at the top here to discuss this a little bit further and what slope to apply for which application. But what this slope does is lets us know how many inches we need to lower our string line on our far string line away from the foundation in order to apply that slope. So for example, if that run is 8 feet and we're applying a 1/8 of an inch per foot slope, that's a whole inch that we need to lower that final string line down. If it's 16 feet, you go down 2 inches and so on and so forth there. And with that slope applied on our string line, we have that string line mimicking top of paver. We can apply that around our project with string lines by placing a string line going across the foundation that would be level, and a string line from that far post that we just put to the end of our patio with that same slope that's been applied to that initial one. Now you can tie string lines diagonally to measure down from to make sure that you are the height of your paver, typically 2 3/8 of an inch, and the height of your bedding layer, whatever you're planning for that, about an inch, no more than 1.5 inches. Your base material should be fairly consistent. So if you need to add more material or scrape away a little bit of material and then compact, do that to the best of your ability. And then we can start to lay out our screed bars. I start from one side of the patio and work my way across by placing my initial screed bar. And now I can measure down from that string line that represents top of paver to the top of my screed bar, the height of the paver. I do that throughout the screed bar. So I measure at the top of the screed bar closest to the foundation and the back of the screed bar closest to the end of the patio, making sure that those two measurements match up. Once again, if your paver's 2 3/8 of an inch thick, then you're making sure that that screed bar is 2 3/8 of an inch below the string line. And that just transfers the same slope that you have applied to your string line to the screed bar. Having said that, if you're using concrete sand for your bedding layer, that'll settle a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch per inch of depth of that concrete sand. So you may want to add that into the height of your paver. If you're using HPB, 1/4 inch chip, that'll settle a little less than 1/8 of an inch per inch of bedding layer that you have. With our first screed bar set, slope applied, we can now put in our next screed bar. In this one, if we want our patio to be level across the foundation, we just want to make sure that it's level with that initial screed bar. So place that second screed bar away from your initial screed bar, a little bit less than the length of whatever level, board, straight edge that you're using to scrape back that material to make sure that your bedding layer is level. And then just make sure that that second screed bar is level with your initial screed bar that has the slope applied. So closest to the foundation, make sure it's level. Use a dead blow hammer to pound it into the base a little bit if you need to, or use some bedding material to build it up if you need to. Then at the position furthest away from the foundation at that screed bar, once again, make sure it's level with that initial screed bar. And there you go, you've got your first initial area set and ready for screeding. Place the bedding material between the pipes, but make sure that you're not moving the pipes by adding some bedding material along the pipes and then in between them. Rake that around roughly, and then once you have enough material, start screeding it back. Start at the area closest to the foundation and work your way backwards. If you have too much material, shovel that away. If you need more material, place that in. And once you have that initial section complete, you can then hop your screed bar to the next area, or ideally you have 3 or more screed bars so that you can keep those in place, especially if you need to move them down to cover more of a distance going away from your foundation. And just repeat this process throughout your entire patio. Whether you need to set another screed bar following your string line in that initial area further away from the patio, or making sure that your next one across the foundation is level with the prior screed bar that you placed. And with that, it's always going to mimic the slope that you have moving away from the foundation. Once you have screeded, remove the screed bars and fill in those voids that the screed bars left with some more bedding material. Make sure it's nice and flat. Now you're ready to lay a perfect patio. One thing to note with your pavers is that the higher quality your pavers are from reputable manufacturers, the better the tolerance is going to be for the heights from one paver to the next. Lower quality materials are going to have higher tolerances, which means once you lay one paver, that next paver that you lay may be noticeably higher or lower than the previous one. This adds to the labor because you're going to have to lift it, remove material, or add more material to get it to the right height of that initial paver that you laid. This is where buying pavers from big box stores really adds a lot of time to the labor in laying them. So invest in good materials, and I hope this video's helped you with the hardest part of preparing a paver patio. Hey, I hope this video's helped you in some way. If it has, please give this video a like, comment below any questions you may have, and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more hardscaping content like this. Thank you so much for watching.